Hello guys, welcome to the first video probably of my channel. I'm going to talk in a soft spoken voice rather than whisper because a whisper kind of screws up my the way my throat decides to work, which means that it doesn't work at all for some reason. I'm over exaggerating, it does. But today we are going to be talking about a game called Hollow Knight. I'm sure some of you are aware of this game. It's an indie game that came out I think around 2015, made by a team called Team Cherry. It's about 3 or 4 people that are working on that game, and it's been receiving constant updates ever since it came out. And it's honestly one of my favorite games to have ever come out, and I might talk about it a little bit later, why I like it so much. But first, for those of you who know what the game is, you're going to know what I'm talking about here, but for those of you that don't, I'm going to be going through and explaining both the basics of each enemy in the game and the Hunter's Journal entries, which are entries you get for killing the creatures in the first place. And upon killing them a certain amount of times, this being called the Hunter, you will unlock their entry and basically their opinions on that creature and how worthy they are of being hunted and such. So we're going to start with, and by the way, I'm going to try and edit in footage, or at least images of each creature, so it's not just a black screen. Though I realize this is going to be an insanely, well, it's just going to be, it's going to take a long time to put that together, but oh well, here we go. So we're going to start with the Crawlid. So the hunter's entry is timid scavenger that crawls through the caverns looking for food. The regular entry is dull and pathetic, hardly worth killing. So behaviors and tactics. This creature meanders back and forth peacefully and doesn't attempt to target the player. It cannot climb up walls or ceilings. For the Dream Nail dialogue, which is an item you get later on in the game that allows you to read kind of what creatures are thinking, the Crawlid will say, light, danger, safe, dark, hungry, hungry, scared, eat, when, kill, hurt, away, away, and pain. So yeah, all nice things. Without the context of the game, I'm sure this sounds great. Anyways, locations they can be found in. Crawlids can be found in mainly the Forgotten Crossroads, as well as in the Howling Cliffs, in the northeast part of Greenpath. One can be found in the top left corner of the Blue Lake. So some trivia. In a Kickstarter update, they were referred to as the Snittering Crawlid. And the flavor text for that was nothing more than a nuisance. These oblivious little scavengers wander about aimlessly looking for scraps of food. The second piece of trivia is that the design of the Crawlid prior to release featured a smooth shell with no spikes. Then, kind of following up with that, it says a dead Crawlid with a smooth shell can be seen in the Tower of Love inside of one of the collector's jars. And the collector's kind of a bit of a hidden boss. I don't know if I'd call it hidden, but it's there, and it's not necessarily in your main path as you're taking an adventure. I'll try and get some of the gifs that it has here of all of the creatures and kind of show them that way, so you can see like the smooth-shelled one and all that. But we'll see how much work I'm actually going to be able to put into this video here. All right. So then, the second creature that it has listed here in the main game, and this is on the Hollow Knight fandom wiki, by the way, is the Vengefly, which I believe is one of the first few bosses that you find in the game, if you can call it a boss. I mean, no, King Vengefly is the boss. Yeah, that's right. Alright, anyway, the entry for the hunter is Flying Predator that pursues its prey relentlessly. This fierce little hunter will bravely chase down creatures many times its size. Admirable. It is weak, though, and I have devoured hundreds of them with little effort or care. Alright, the behavior and tactics. They hover in the air, moving around in a small area. They emit a squawk before homing in on the knight, which is the character you play as, when they come in range. One of the first and easiest enemies in the game. Either stand still and strike when it gets within range, or jump and strike down at it. Either way, it will continue to move forward towards the knight, making it possible to stay in one place and continue attacking it until it is dead. So the Dream Nail dialogue for this is the same as the Crawlid. So light, danger, safe, dark, yada yada, all that. The locations, the Vengeflies are one of, if not the most common enemy in the game. They can be found in almost every area of the game except for the Hive, Crystal Peak, Ancient Basin, Fungal Wastes, and Fog Canyon. Let's be honest, there's almost nothing in the Ancient Basin. But trivia, in a Kickstarter update, it was referred to as Vengeward Buzzerfly. Once this flying predator has caught sight of its prey, it will hunt it down relentlessly through the darkness. And that was its flavor text for the Kickstarter update. Alright, so moving on to the next one, we have the Vengefly King. This is the other thing I was talking about. This is one of the bosses that you run into. So the Hunter's Journal says, the patriarch of a Vengefly colony swoops at intruders and cries out for reinforcements if threatened. And the hunter says, a filthy creature that is happy to chew on any old thing it finds discarded on the cavern floor. When it notices a threat, it will annoyingly scream and shriek, so kill it swiftly. And the behaviors and tactics of this creature, the Vengefly King has 2 attacks. It has a dash, in which it opens its jaw and swoops at the knight in a wide U shape, and Summoning Scream. It emits a screech, bringing 0 to 2 Vengeflies into the fight. There's a maximum of 4 Vengeflies that can be alive at once. If it opens its mouth to swipe, wait until it starts moving, I think it meant swoop. Jump over it as it approaches, either perform a downward slash to get in some damage or simply avoid it. When it summons normal Vengeflies, kill them as quickly as possible. The longer they're around, the more difficult dodging the King Vengefly will become, and they provide an easy way to get up your soul. Your soul is how you use different spells, as well as you can focus your soul to regain some of your health. You get soul basically just by hitting most creatures. Most creatures will give your soul unless they're made of void. Which again, something that if you play the game, it will make much more sense. There is also enough time to heal immediately after dodging the swoop attack, or the swipe attack from the Vengefly King. So the Dream Nail dialogue for this one is Rage, Defend, Kill, and Light. So the locations you can find it in, it is a boss in Green Path, and then it can also appear as, at that point, you get to hear in the game, it's the Coliseum of Fools that it appears in again. I wouldn't call that a boss necessarily, because it's, I mean, at that point you're much more equipped than you were before, and, you know, that's kind of how it is. I don't know if I'm talking too loud. I feel like I'm talking too loud. But this is the first video, and it's probably just going to be, so whatever. The next creature we have is the Gruzzer, a simple-minded creature that haphazardly buzzes around, bumping into things. The hunter has to say, they only seem dimly aware of their surroundings, making them easy prey to cut your fangs on. What is it that guides them on their paths? It almost seems like they search for ways to die. So the behaviors and tactics, this creature flies around, bumping into walls and objects, and changing directions upon contact. It is best to trail behind it and then strike down. So these creatures aren't necessarily all that hard to defeat, and their Dream Nail dialogue is pretty much the same as everything else. Location, the Gruzzers are found in abundance at the northwest of the Forgotten Crossroads, and are replaced by the volatile Gruzzers once it becomes infected. They are also spawned by the death of a Gruz Mother popping out of her dead corpse. Lovely. So trivia, in the Kickstarter update, it was referred to as a Droobling Musnik. That's very different than what it is now. The flavor text is, these morose-looking flies buzz around haphazardly through the caverns, bouncing off of walls and irritating travelers. Gruzzers are really rare once the Forgotten Crossroads become infected, making it harder to complete the Hunter's Journal if the player has not killed enough of them beforehand. However, 2 Gruzzers can be found at the entrance of the cave that leads to Brooding Malwick, even after the infection spreads. And Brooding Malwick, I think, is another one of the bosses in the game that you can find kind of in a hidden area of Forgotten Crossroads. And that's all they have for the Gruzzers, so we're going to move on to Gruz Mother, which is another one of the bosses that you fight early on in the game. And the journal entry is, mature Gruzzer that carries its young in its belly, attacks by hurling its huge body around. The Hunter's Journal is, bizarrely, this monster does not lay eggs, but instead carries its young inside of its fat stomach. This strange practice seems to exhaust the creature, making it sleepy and vulnerable. Take advantage. Alright, behaviors and tactics. Found sleeping in a small arena, the Gruz Mother will only attack once damaged, so this is one of the first bosses you can find. It has 3 different attacks. It has the charge, where it charges straight at the knight. It has the zigzag slam, where it repeatedly slams herself between the floor and the ceiling, and it kind of just bounces up and down between them. And the same way maybe you could imagine a bouncy ball if it was thrown at the ground really hard and didn't have enough space and just hit the ceiling to bounce back into the ground. Kind of how that would just slowly move forward, but also just bouncing off the roof a bunch of times. That was a terrible description. Alright, and it has its 3rd attack, which is to fly. While not performing any attack, it will aimlessly fly around within the arena, and it can deal damage to you in that state. When Gruz Mother dies, she spawns a swarm of 7 to 8 Gruzzers that must also be defeated before the player can leave the initial boss area. The zigzag slam can be dodged easier with the Mothwing Cloak. That's an item you get later on. Since the zigzag attack is really fast, it requires precise timing in order to avoid. Using Vengeful Spirit is the easiest way to defeat it, as it has relatively low health. So 6 Vengeful Spirits or 14 Old Nail Strikes is enough to defeat the Gruz Mother. In the Coliseum of Fools, 2 are fought at once. It is best to kill a Gruz Mother as fast as possible, and using All Soul for spells is a good idea since the next wave is Zot the Mighty, and he cannot deal any damage to the knight. Howling Wraiths is the best possible spell to defeat a Gruz Mother in the Coliseum of Fools. Otherwise, use Fragile Strength or Quick Slash to kill it really quickly. Healing is easy since they won't attack really often, just move away from them in order to heal. I feel like they kind of overplayed the danger of the Gruz Mothers in the Coliseum of Fools. I never really had that much of an issue with them, but I don't know, it might just depend upon at what point you got to there in the game or how well you did prior to that point of the Coliseum, but we'll see. Anyway, Dreamnail dialogue is full, almost time, danger, tired, kill, and sleep, dying. That's sad. Alright, so locations, it can be found in the Forgotten Crossroads, sleeping peacefully until it is disturbed. Again, that is the first instance you see of it, and that is, I think, one of the first bosses you fight in the game. 2 are fought at once in the Coliseum of Fools, however, they do not spawn Gruzzers upon death. This is also true for the ones fought in the Hall of Gods and the Pantheon of the Master and Hollow Nest. And the Hall of Gods and Pantheon of the Master are a endgame update. It's kind of a boss rush. Alright, and to get the achievement from the Coliseum, when you defeat it, it's complete the Trial of the Warrior. And then trivia of it, the Gruz Mother was the first mini-boss revealed in a YouTube gameplay demonstration video, in which it was referred to as a Empress Musnik, and that was before they changed the names to the Gruz. Alright, so that's kind of a good start. I'd like to keep going on with this and, you know, start explaining a little bit more, but I also don't want to make it too crazy for me to have to edit this all together, because there are over 140 enemies in the game, and when you include the other you know, extra things you can get in the Hunter's Journal. That's a lot to read. So for now, I think this is where we're going to leave off. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you have any advice or anything you'd like to see in the future, possibly, let me know. And go check out Hollow Knight, I guess. That's all I have for today. Have a good night, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.